All right, guys, welcome back to a MetaZoo video. And so if you guys are like me, you've kind of been thinking like, okay, what comes next for MetaZoo, right? We've already seen a base set that released end of March, early April, for especially after we had some distribution errors there. Then we got, in May, April, and we started seeing conventions and convention packs, convention promos, convention redeemables, right? But this all seems to have catered towards, promos, collectibles, and things like that, right? Now, in the past, I'd be all about it, right? Because I've always just been a collector and I've never really looked too much into like the actual gameplay side of things. But after many years of experience and actually following multiple TCG news and all that stuff, I've come to the realization that the game itself is extremely important because it is a symbiotic relationship between players and collectors. Now, so in June next month, okay, they're actually going to be releasing the MetaZoo Flex Decks. Some of you guys have probably already seen these. You've already seen it in other YouTube channels. You may have seen the leaks that happened like about a month ago on the Discord. And so you guys already know we got two Flex decks that are coming. We have the Crushing Gust, which seems to be the air and the earth element, and then we have the Blazing Charge, which is like the lightning and the fire element deck. And so I will have these up for pre-order, shameless plug. Check out my website, link down below, description, and on the pinned comment. I do have Flex decks up for pre-order. Again, these release around end of June, and I actually just updated my shipping, so any orders above $50 or more, you do get free shipping. I still have some booster boxes of base set. I have these up for pre-order. I have convention packs, like single convention packs, if you guys are wanting to, see what they're all about, test your luck, and maybe pull a sketch card. I also got sleeves and deck boxes and things like that. So if you guys are interested, check it out. But with these Flex decks releasing in June, I believe this is going to be the start of a big push into the gameplay itself. And sorry, I'm just kind of putting stuff down. Like, I'm getting my stuff put down on silence and whatnot. So with June, with these Flex decks, we should see a bigger push, because obviously these Flex decks are meant to be like the entry point into MetaZoo, into the game, into seeing what it's all about, right? Because you are way better off getting or convincing somebody to purchase a $25 Flex deck with a few packs versus $120 for a booster box right up front. And so we have seen MetaZoo do the alpha decks, the alpha promos, and essentially kind of like a watered down version of the game, or like a shorter version of their game with the alpha demo decks. And so now this should be a huge push into what should come next in the gameplay of MetaZoo, in the competitive nature of MetaZoo. And so here's the thing. As I mentioned, players and collectors are a symbiotic relationship. Collectors love to open packs. They love to rip stuff open, obviously chasing the hits, chasing that OG moth, hidden rare, and failing time and time again. While players need singles. They need 3 or 4 of a single card in their decks. And I mean, for example, let's say you have like let's say Lady Luck, because I just pulled her recently. Let's say a player needs 3 of the Lady Lucks, right? And let's say this player wants to bling out their deck, so they're going to get the 3 textured Lady Lucks. That doesn't mean that the super rares ain't worth anything. It just means that the super rares will still sell for a premium, and the textured will sell for even higher than that, because it is a card that's in the meta, for example. I'm not saying the Lady Luck is in the meta. This is just an example. But when you have cards in the meta, right, you are going to be obviously being able to sell those cards for much higher than other cards in the set, right? And so for example, with Alestrals, another game that I'm very much into and I really enjoy covering and kind of opening product up and all that, Alestrals meta with every new set, I mean, it's ever changing. Almost, it's like every month there's a new meta, every couple months there's a new meta, there's constantly running tournaments, and in turn this causes sales of singles to continue almost basically every day. Every day I'm getting sales on Alestrals from TCG Player, on the Discord, etc. I'm always getting new sales. And the moment that a new meta arises, it's like a floodgate of people trying to purchase up those singles. And it happens every time without fail. All of a sudden, I'll be getting a couple orders, and then boom, something happens in the meta, and then a bunch of my other single cards start to move. A bunch of the higher rarity tier cards of those singles start to move a lot quicker. And so that's kind of what I'm hoping we start to see with MetaZoo. Now, that should happen. It should come naturally as the meta progresses, as more people start playing the game, as people start going to tournaments, whether webcam, tabletop simulator, or in-person tournaments. The singles should go up. And now you may be wondering, like, how does TTS help this? Well, what Elestrals did was very interesting, because obviously as an indie TCG themselves, when they started a few years ago, they had a lot of backers on their Kickstarter. However, there wasn't really a lot of in-store play going on. There wasn't a lot of stores that actually carried the product. Now it's a completely different story. Elestrals is carried by a lot more stores. They've had their first big tournament in Dallas that I actually went to. Like they're exponentially growing. Their Discord has grown like by 50% over the last year. Like it's been going insane on the Elestral side. And so seeing how they essentially, going back to what I was saying, the way they got to this point is they knew that their weakness was in the fact that not many stores were carrying their product. So to make sure that the player base continued to play, they were having webcam tournaments. Which actually made people purchase the singles and continue to play the game. They weren't on TCG Player for 3 years. They just got on TCG Player in October, and I'm constantly selling hundreds, if not close to $1,000 of Elestral singles every month. And obviously, I add new product in there. I get the latest, their Shattered Stars subscription, whatever. But I constantly am selling hundreds of dollars worth of Elestral singles on TCG Player since they got on TCG Player. And that's another point that MetaZoo really needs to hop on. They need to get on TCG Player again. And so with that, they need to announce something. I haven't seen much tournament play. I haven't heard much at all, other than people going to the convention and playing in person and learning the game, which I think is good. I think that's kind of their strategy for now, is they want to separate themselves from the original MetaZoo, and they're doing so by saying hey guys, check us out. We're brand new. Here's our new game. This is how you play. And so I really don't think that we're going to start seeing a really a big market movement with singles and meta defining cards probably till next year. I want to say, in my opinion, that this first year of MetaZoo, for the next 9 to 10 months, it's going to be all about them basically saying hey guys, give us a shot. We're not the old guys. We're a completely different company. We have competent leadership in place. We have financial backing. We have a US based printer. There's not going to be any sort of big delays from overseas shipping, which, by the way, shout out to them for doing a US based printer, because especially with these tariffs that are going on, I assume I don't know how the US printers, where they get their card stock from, whether it's US based or not, right? But shout out to MetaZoo printing in the States, because can you imagine the fallout that they would have received if all of a sudden these tariffs hit and they were still printing overseas in China, and then all of a sudden their product is going to get raised in prices, shipping delays. It would have been a nightmare, So I'm glad that they're printing in the US, because that's insane. That would have been insane, and it would have been DOA, in my opinion, if they were still printing overseas. It would have been a huge PR nightmare, but I digress. But what they need to do is be a little bit more communicative, not too much, but just give us some more teases, give us some more information as to in store tournaments, or I know that's, and again, hats off to them. I know that they've been trying, and they've been doing that with I know they teamed up with Immortal Workshop for the Houston Collecticon, and they were doing a trade night over there and whatnot, and that's awesome. I just hope we see more in-person events, and that they show it off, because if you guys have seen the Discord, they haven't said much for like a couple of weeks or something like that, since they said, hey guys, here are our distribution, here is our distribution list for Australia and like overseas, and like here are our partners. And that's really all we've seen, other than like the convention, the convention sketch cards, the redeemables, and then like the trade night that they were doing. But they haven't really done much else to show people like, look at our events, people are learning how to play. They need to do more of that, in my opinion, my humble opinion. I'm hoping we see a huge push, and I believe we will. I believe that this has been, they're smarter than I am. Okay, these guys know what they're doing. They have a history of working in the TCG world. They know how to market it. They know what they need to do to get people to at least try the game. And obviously, because they started off with just the base set booster box, that would alienate a bunch of people that are not willing to drop $120 on it. So with these flex decks coming out next month in June, it's a huge opportunity for them to market the shit out of the gameplay. And like I said, when players are playing the game and they're needing singles, that leads to a constant cycle between people like myself who like to open up boxes for fun, hunting chase cards. Like, I literally have 5 or 6 booster boxes with just single cards. Like, bro, like I got, like, these are just hollows and like reverses just like right here on my desk. Once we start seeing more of the gameplay, more of players actually playing the game, we will start to see singles moving. We will start to see textured cards kind of, of course, depending on which ones they are. If it's a meta-defining card, if it's a card that people keep using in these competitive decks, those textured cards are going to be holding a lot of value. And again, I use Elestrals as an example. A lot of the full art Elestral cards that you can get on a booster box, because the way they do it is you get 1 full art per booster box. That full art, if it's a regular non-competitive full art, you can expect to get like $20 for it. If it is a meta-defining card, for example, like Poison Tipped Arrow or Gorgon's Gaze from Daybreak, those cards sell for $80 to $100 by themselves, just one. And so obviously I know a lot of you guys know that, meta-defining cards are worth more, but like that's a huge, huge difference between a regular full art card in Elestrals versus an actual meta card that people use in decks. Like, that's 5x what it's worth, right? And so we can expect to see that the more that the game is being played, the more that stores pick up the game and give it a shot, we're going to start to see that. And so right now, in my opinion, it just kind of feels like we're just waiting to hear more information, which isn't so bad, right? And I guess this is my fault, because I am still wired in my brain to think how the original MetaZoo would do its things, right? The original MetaZoo was dropping stuff left and right almost every other day on their Discord, showing something off, whether it's from the next set, showing a tease, showing a promo drop, and that kept fans and people like myself like really engaged and wanting to know more, and like wanting to get the product and rip it open. And like, I need to like get away from that. I need to understand that like that was not a healthy way to play or to collect, because that's how you got a lot of people that were affected by the original MetaZoo. Thankfully, I saw that like, hey, you know what? There's no reason for me to pre-order from MetaZoo Marketplace anymore back in the day, because I can just wait a couple days after release, and the booster boxes are not going to be $100 or 120. They're going to be like $50-$60 a booster box. And so I ended up doing that, and thankfully I only got hit with like 1 native streamer kit that I didn't receive. I was very lucky, right? There was a lot of people that lost thousands of dollars on the original MetaZoo, and like, I don't want to be like that. I'm enjoying it as the product comes. However, like, I love the MetaZoo brand, man. Like, I want more cards to open. I want more sets. I want more promos and cool stuff, and like all these sketch cards that you can get at the conventions or redeemables. I want it. I enjoy opening up the packs. I enjoy seeing what we pull. And I think that the way that they're currently doing it, taking it slow and steady, is really good for the brand. And I'm really hoping that once these flex decks come out and they start pushing the gameplay, that after that we will likely start to see more of the set 2 that's coming out for Loveland Frogman. And so All this to say, I originally thought that by July we would have set number 2. I figured, we're getting base set in end of March, early April. That gives them like 3 months in between releases. I figured that would be good to release the Loveland Frogman set 2. I don't know what the name of it's going to be, but we know it's introducing the water element. And then in my beautiful little head of mine, I said, well, that's awesome, because then if they come out in July, then we can expect like a Halloween set where they can introduce like the dark element, and you can have like Headless Horseman and a bunch of the other like old scratch. Can you imagine an old scratch original poncho artwork, hidden rare, textured? Like, that would be insane for Halloween. And so like that's how my mind has been working. But I don't know if that's actually going to happen. I think we're going to see the second set. I don't know. I mean, there's a possibility that we'd see it in July or August. But it just depends on what the plans are for them, how printer schedule looks like, how if there's any sort of hiccups with the printing at all. Because again, I don't know how US based printers work. Like, I don't know if they make their own cardstock, or if they source their cardstock here in the US, or if they're getting it from overseas. And then at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, the US based printer is going to be paying tariffs on overseas material, which will also increase the cost here in the States. So then it ends up being moot whether they print in the US or not. So I don't know how that works, but I'm hoping that it's not affected to where we don't get to see, the water set sooner rather than later. Like, I really want to get my hands on the water set. Like, I can already imagine a fully textured Loveland Frogman OG hidden rare, or even the new artwork looks really, really good. And so at this point, I'm just rambling, guys. I'm sorry. There's a lot of thoughts. I hope that they push heavily into the gameplay starting here soon. I hope we see more, videos of conventions. Like, throw something out. Make a video while you're at the conventions, live stream it, share it on the Discord, have people join in and see this, and put it on YouTube. I feel like the Discord is kind of quiet in terms of announcements the last few weeks, and that just could be because they're super busy with the convention. I completely understand that, but like, look at Alestrals, man. Alestrals goes to conventions or any sort of tournaments, and they're live streaming everything. They're uploading stuff to their Discord almost daily. Like, they have that engagement, and I really hope that MetaZoo continues to engage the fans, because, like, again, besides Flex Decks, we haven't heard much else that's going to happen. I mean, yes, we got the convention packs and we got the convention redeemables, but what else is going to happen, right? And I really hope we hear more news very soon. But that's all I had to say, man. I just had these thoughts. It's kind of rainy here in the Austin, Texas area. So I was like, let me make a video real quick and just kind of go over what I'm thinking, man. But I think the Flex Decks are going to be the pivotal moment of MetaZoo, because now that you'll have that entry-level product going forward, if they have their printer schedules aligned and all the products come out, then the starter decks are going to be like a huge boon for players and even new fans that have been on the fence just because they don't want to buy a booster box. They would rather buy something like that's 20, 25 bucks. You get a few packs, you get some really cool super rare promos, which they look awesome, dude. I love the Crushing Gust Flex, like the Flex deck. They look awesome. But that's all I got for you guys. Check out my store down below. As I mentioned, I have booster boxes, convention packs, pre-orders on the Flex decks. I got sleeves and deck boxes and whatever else you guys might need to protect your cards. But appreciate all the support that you guys have always given me, and I'll see you on the next one.